I've just flown 2,500 kilometres from London across southern Europe, and yet I'm on British soil. This is Gibraltar, one of the United Kingdom's overseas territories. But I'll tell you something, it's more British than many Brits might imagine.
So much so that we're here for the King's birthday parade.
Now, it might not be Buckingham Palace, but there is something quintessentially British about what we're seeing this evening. And the patriotism, well, it's not going to be beaten by anyone else.
You just have to go around the streets and see the Union Jacks flying all over the place. We cannot deny that we are British. That is something that we have in our blood.
My son served the army for a long time, you know. Everything here in Gibraltar is so peaceful and, you know, it's British. And it's lovely to see the parade and the soldiers so well trained. So it's really beautiful.
I like all our traditions and it's admired by a lot of foreign people.
So proud to have this at the end of Spain, our stronghold here. We're really proud. We want to keep on going. Long live Gibraltar.
We may have to drive on the right-hand side, but the plugs are British, and of course, we have the iconic red postbox. Gibraltar is one of 14 overseas territories the UK claims, including the British Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands. Their relationship with the UK is set out in individual constitution. It usually involves a commissioner or, as in the case of Gibraltar, a governor appointed by the Crown. They are responsible for all domestic affairs like finance, education and healthcare policy. The United Kingdom often has greater authority over the territory's defence and foreign affairs. The UK does still have unlimited power to make laws for the territories, but since 2019, the government has indicated it won't use it. There's also this extraordinary stalactite from St Michael's Cave from here in the Gibraltar Rock. And what you can see on it is the preamble to the Gibraltar Constitution. And, interestingly, the other half of this is displayed in Speaker's House in Westminster. The job of governing can't be quite so easily divided. We sat down with Gibraltar's Deputy Chief Minister to find out how it all works. Deputy Chief Minister, thanks very much for joining me today. Can we begin by asking you, what is the actual role of both the Deputy Chief Minister and the Chief Minister here in Gibraltar?
So Gibraltar is an overseas territory of the United Kingdom. It has a governor appointed by His Majesty the King, representing the Crown in Gibraltar, but also representing the UK government in Gibraltar as well. And the governor is also the Commander-in-Chief. Now, there's also an elected government of Gibraltar. So essentially, the Chief Minister, myself and my ministerial colleagues run the government of Gibraltar on a day-to-day basis. That means we have defined ministerial responsibilities over all areas except defence, external relations and internal security, which come under the governor. So all other matters, whether it's economy, whether it is taxation, whatever it might be, are the responsibility of the elected government of Gibraltar.
And you put your policies and your proposals to the Parliament. You have to actually get Parliament's approval, don't you? So tell me, how many members of the Parliament are there?
So there is a Parliament. There are 17 elected members of Parliament. 8 form the government and 7 form the opposition. So we pass our legislation there. Once it's approved in Parliament, it goes to the governor for assent, in the same way as in the UK bills would go to the King for royal assent, and then they become law in Gibraltar. I should mention, though, that although we're very small, with 32,000 people and 6 square kilometres of territory, we do have a very high level of autonomy in relation to other regions of Europe and other parts of the world. So, for example, although we're tiny, we have more powers of devolution than than Scotland or than Wales or Northern Ireland, or indeed many regions on the European continent as well.
Is it effectively fair to say then, but over all domestic policy matters, there are no limits to your powers?
That is correct. We run Gibraltar, we raise taxation, and we determine how that money will be spent. In fact, we're now coming up to the period where Parliament will be debating the government's appropriation bill, which is our budget. So we run all our internal affairs. I should also mention, though, that in relation to external matters, we are very much involved. So it's not that this is not decided by an anonymous officials in London, for example. We are very involved in the negotiation of our exit from the European Union and our treaty for a future relationship. The government of Gibraltar has been present in every meeting, in every room, and the policy of the UK government in relation to Brexit and a future relationship has been very much driven by the policies of the government of Gibraltar itself.
That's interesting. You talk about a close working relationship with the UK government. That implies, from what you're saying, that the relationship between Gibraltar and the administration here and the UK government is a good relationship. It hasn't always been a trusting relationship, particularly since the last referendum back in 2002. Tell me, what does that say to you about the relationship with the UK government? Is it a fluid relationship, or is it one that, regardless of some of the ups and downs, does have a high level of trust or not?
I think it's a family relationship. So we consider ourselves to be part of the British family of nations. And as happens in all families, there are times when you have arguments over specific issues, but that doesn't really transcend the strength or the nature of the relationship that you have with other members of your family. And that's how I would describe our relationship with the United Kingdom and between the government of Gibraltar and the government of the UK. And it really has never been stronger. Yes, there have been ups and downs, certainly when there was that attempt in 2002 to share the sovereignty of Gibraltar with Spain against the wishes of the people of Gibraltar. It happened. There was a referendum organised in Gibraltar. We voted overwhelmingly against the principle of shared sovereignty, and the UK respected that decision. I think it's important to make note of that.
Let's talk about defence. Obviously, a huge chunk of Gibraltar is effectively used for the military's presence here. Is that a contentious issue?
We very much welcome and value our relationship with the Ministry of Defence, and Gibraltar has been a military base of different types for more than 300 years, so standing shoulder to shoulder with the United Kingdom and with the allies of the United Kingdom is in our blood. For us, it's not a problem. So we were there during the First World War. In Second World War, we suffered the evacuation of the civilian population of Gibraltar because they thought Gibraltar was going to be attacked by the Nazis. It wasn't, but it is what they believed in London at the time. So all our civilian population, men, women and children, were uprooted and evacuated away to London and to other places. So we've been there thick and thin. Through every conflict the UK has been in, through the Falklands conflicts, other conflicts in the Gulf, we are 1,000 miles nearer wherever that hot point might be in the world. And we're proud of that. We're proud of that relationship and we celebrate it.
And finally, when you look ahead, how do you see the future relationship both with your neighbours, Spain, and of course with the United Kingdom? Do you think the younger generations will share that sense of loyalty and patriotism to Britain that obviously older generations definitely do have?
So I think they will. We are brought up with the English language, with the English traditions, with the English-British legal system. So it's part of who we are. It's in our blood, as I said earlier, and that is not going to change. It's been the case for 300 years, and it will be the case for more than 300 years in the future.
Overseas territory citizens have the right to hold a British passport and to diplomatic assistance abroad, but they don't have an automatic right to live and work in the United Kingdom or to vote in UK elections. So are Gibraltarians happy with the current setup? Do you think Gibraltar should have the right to vote for its own MP?
Of course.
You'd like to see an MP for Gibraltar?
Yeah, very much so.
I think it's about time that Gibraltar decide its own future and not let the British government decide whatever they want to decide, like what's happened now with the New Deal. Gibraltar was in favour of having a Spanish boat on the ground, and now we ended up with Spanish police on the port and the airport.
I think it's only fair. It is British territory, so I don't see why not.
And would you go out and vote if you had the chance to vote for an MP to be in Parliament?
Yeah, definitely.
It's the best way to get our voices heard firsthand in Parliament in the UK, so definitely yes.
That is a wish that everybody wants it to happen, you know. Why can't we have one? We have a lot of people there who back us, but we need somebody with closer links with Gibraltar and a say in the House. And I keep on telling people we are not a colony. We're not a colony. We're an overseas territory. We were a colony when we had a colonial secretary in Gibraltar. We don't have that anymore.
Do you think the relationship between Gibraltar and Spain is a good relationship?
For now, yes, this will benefit everyone. Mostly of the people who are crossing frontier, they were waiting for this agreement since 5 years ago.
We've been British for a long, long time, and I wouldn't want to be anything else but British, really.
I think it's always been a good relationship. I think locals feel very proud to be British, and we just hope that under the current deal that ties will be strengthened even more so.
It's okay. I think it's quite close. It's quite strong as well. Yeah, I think that we have many friends in Parliament, so in that sense we're fine. It's only when it comes to things that Gibraltar wants independently of Britain. Perhaps we should have our own member of Parliament.
Ellos quieren esto y esto no puede ser. Esto es esto y España es España. Y yo soy española, pero me considero llanita y defiendo Gibraltar, porque es la tierra que a mí me ha dado de comer. Pero ellos quieren todo y no puede ser.
Let's get a bit of a history lesson with former Gibraltarian politician and historian Marlene Hassan Nahon. We're travelling by cable car approximately 600 metres skyward to the top of the Rock of Gibraltar.
The history of Gibraltar and Britain goes back hundreds of years. Tell us a little bit about that and how it's evolved.
So obviously, yes, it goes back hundreds of years, and the people of Gibraltar have always been fervently British. But I believe that our real national identity and the essence of what we are was actually helped by the Spanish when the border closed in 1960s because of the Franco regime. That siege and that struggle that Gibraltarians saw themselves in was what really, really underpinned our modern identity and our sense of British national pride. And that is something that no opening of any border or tumbling of any border or agreement will change, because borders are not what defines your identity. Your identity is defined by your struggle, your history, your social, the social connotations of that history. So I personally don't feel threatened at all about it.
It's interesting what you're pointing to there, the sense of history that's defined the British sense of pride. But in 2002, there was a referendum, and to many people around the world, they would have thought Gibraltar, it's close to Spain, it's natural that people would have chosen to have shared sovereignty with Spain. But that didn't happen, did it? Why not?
Firstly, the proximity really has nothing to do with it. The Portuguese have a border with France. Neither wants to be part of the identity of the other.
But 15,000 workers come across every day, half the workforce.
Respect, we need to them, they need us, that they're very rooted in their culture and their history and their pride, national pride, and we're very rooted in ours. And again, if anything, what happened in 2000, in the early 2000s with Blair and Hassan, was another step of national identity that reinforced us. We had our constitution. The result of that was an even more robust constitution with a double lock system, which protects our identity and our sovereignty and our control and jurisdiction more than before. So the Gibraltarians have long memories. We're a people, we're a small people, we're a mighty people with a lot of struggle, but with a lot of pride and identity. But we're also a people which live in like 5 square kilometers and voted, don't forget, in the last referendum in Brexit, Gibraltar, as you know, was the centre of all of the UK that voted, with the highest population to stay in Europe. So we sent a very strong message. Yes, we're British, but we're European as well.
Let's talk about voting. Given that the UK Parliament and government have the power to manage defence policy, foreign relations, including with the EU, shouldn't Gibraltar have an MP elected by the people of Gibraltar who sits in the London Parliament?
Okay, so this is an issue which is a live issue in Gibraltar. So I believe it would be a retrograde step to go effectively, essentially, to the motherland and represent there. As much as we can, we have our own parliament, our own democratic system, many of our own laws, and if we manage our own democratic destiny and our own politics, I believe that gives us more strength, not less strength. So I don't believe that it would be a strengthening for us to have a parliamentarian in West.
The relationship broadly may be long, but it's also an evolving relationship. Is it a positive evolvement, or have there been some difficult times?
Look, I think there's always been difficult times. Gibraltar always wants more Britain, more public Britain and Gibraltar together. We're extremely passionate about our nationality, but we have had some setbacks, like what I was just saying with the plan by Labour and the Spanish Prime Minister at the time, Hassan, to make some kind of deal. That really wounded us. And
was it a sense of betrayal?
There was a massive sense of betrayal, to the point that even today people are feeling a little bit cynical, because this deal has been done with the Labour Party, so they remember 20 years ago, and people are just fearful. But I think the large majority understand that it's vital for us to have a fluid border, so that we can carry out all the things that we do on a daily basis.
Well, we are here at the top of the famous Rock of Gibraltar. Tell me, what is the significance and attachment to the monkeys that are here?
They say that the day that the monkeys leave Gibraltar, we will cease to be British. So for as long as they're here, which is funny though, because I think they came from Northern Africa.
Is it true that Winston Churchill in the war actually sent monkeys to Gibraltar because he was worried?
That's the urban myth. I've heard that before. I don't know how true it is. I think it is true, but it's a massive symbolic part of our identity. I think the monkeys, and it's like our Disney World in a way. But it means a lot to us, because this is Gibraltar. It's a strange place in many ways. It's small. It's British in the middle of the heat of the Iberian peninsula. You have people who are fervently British, but we speak both languages, and we love to have our tapas in Spain. It's a very interesting combination of people, but it doesn't take away who we are, our Britishness. And I don't believe that this deal will make us any less British. I think we're rooted in our values and our principles, and not necessarily in our borders. Don't forget, there are 29 countries in Europe. None of them have borders, and they're all passionate about their own identity and nationality. I don't see why we should be any different.
Marlene, thanks so much for joining me here on the Rock of Gibraltar.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
So how do politicians since Churchill view overseas territories like Gibraltar? We sat down with MP Andrew Rosindell, who is head of the all-party parliamentary group for overseas territories. How did you view the relationships between the overseas territory and their importance to Britain?
We have 21 overseas territories and crown dependencies, and we have a fantastic relationship with all of them. But each relationship we have is very individual, because everyone has their own particular needs, their issues, different constitutions, different parliaments. They all make their own laws and decide for themselves how each territory is governed. So we have good relations with them, but the job of the UK is to ensure that there's good governance. We have a governor in the overseas territories and a lieutenant governor in each of the crown dependencies. We believe that the overseas territories should be free to run their own affairs, make their own laws and make their own decisions in their own interests. But they are part of the British family, so ultimately they need to row in with the legal framework of the United Kingdom as well. And they do that in general. They do that with great pride. There's no issue with it.
Gibraltar is a small place, but with a huge military presence, and that's been made clear in the government's strategic defence review that it wishes to continue that. But is it fair, really, that the Gibraltar government has no say in how these facilities and presence is used?
It's still the case that British overseas territories are not equally part of the British family. For instance, we make a lot of laws and make a lot of decisions. We sign international treaties that they don't really have any say over, but it affects them. So they're still treated almost like add-ons rather than fully part of the British family. And in terms of the way they are handled by the UK government, the overseas territories are still under the Foreign Office. Also, of course, as you all know, they have no elected representation here in the UK Parliament. Other countries like France and the Netherlands and Denmark that have territories, they have votes in elections when they have general elections in those countries. We are the only former colonial power that doesn't afford our OT citizens the right of a vote in those elections. So there's a lot still to be done.
So what is the significance of defence being an exclusive power of Britain when it comes to these British overseas territories?
So Gibraltar is British sovereign territory, and one of the things that Gibraltar is most proud of is its military history. They are part of the UK family because of military conquest. So the last people to object to the military being on the Rock of Gibraltar are the Gibraltarians themselves. The issue is that we have to have a very, very clear line here that sovereignty of any kind and British rights to do as we choose, the British UK government and the Gibraltar government to do as we choose on the Rock, because it is British territory, that is sacrosanct. We're not going to have any outside international organisation, whether it be European or anything else, dictating what happens on Gibraltar.
The controversy over the United Kingdom government ceding and giving away Chagos. Should Gibraltarians be worried that this could be the same future for them?
Do I think that the current government in London are preparing to do the same with Gibraltar and the Falkland Islands as they've done with Chagos? No, I don't think that's on their agenda. But do I think that when push comes to shove, they will defend the rights and sovereignty of those territories in the way that a Conservative government would do? No, I don't. I don't trust Labour. I remember when Tony Blair tried to do a joint sovereignty deal with Spain over Gibraltar in the 2000s, and it was only because they had a referendum and it was rejected that in the end Tony Blair had to drop the deal. But he was quite prepared to give Gibraltar away to Spain effectively without any say of the Gibraltarian people. And they're doing the same again with Chagos. The Chagosians have no say over the future of their islands. And I think it's an absolute shameful sellout and a betrayal of those people that the Labour government are not giving the Chagosians any right of say over the future of their own homeland. You have a Labour government in Gibraltar, you have a Labour government in London, so maybe there's a closer political cooperation, I don't know. But I'm not bothered about the political parties, frankly. I'm not bothered about the individual governments. I care about the Gibraltarian people. It is their rock, it is their territory, and they must decide their own destiny. And I can tell you now that when I go to Gibraltar, when I speak to Gibraltarians, they would rather die than give up their British sovereignty. They would rather leave the Rock than ever be under the rule of Spain. And so any Gibraltarian government that undermines, even in the smallest of way, the rights of Gibraltarians of self-determination and sovereignty, or weakens the link between the United Kingdom and Gibraltar, I think if that ever happened, I don't think that Gibraltarian government would last for very long. And I've presented a petition here in Parliament to give the Gibraltarians their own member of Parliament, their own MP. And most Gibraltarians want their own MP who can stand up in the House of Commons and argue for the rights and the things that matter to Gibraltar, but they're denied the right of having their own MP. They've asked for it, but unfortunately the UK government hasn't supported that policy. And I haven't seen much enthusiasm from the Gibraltar government, but I know the Gibraltarian people would like to have their own elected voice here in Westminster.
So it's Britain, but not quite Britain. They set their own taxes, they make their own laws. And the people we've met here, they are more passionate and patriotic than some of those in Britain itself. Thanks to all my guests for joining me, and of course, if you want more lively debate, follow us on X at Westminster TRT. But in the meantime, from me and all the team, thanks for joining us.